Hello and welcome to Just Another Football Podcast. Welcome to the first installment of our review episodes. Well, there's only been 4 games in the tournament, but the US and England, the teams that concern Just Another Football Podcast, have played and played two interesting games. This Group B is the highest ranked, and I think gonna be one of the more interesting groups. And that US-Wales game, and we'll get to it in the second half of the episode, this immediately makes the group just incredibly interesting because the perception was whoever wins US-Wales gets to go through because we'll get a result of Iran. But now they've drawn, and it's gonna be a fun next 2 games. But I got George. We'll talk about England with him. Hello, sir.
Hello.
Welcome back. Long time no see.
Was I not on the episode before this?
I don't think so. You've been away for a while.
No. I think.
Oh, it's been too long.
No, it's been at least 2 episodes, which is a considerable amount of time considering we do once a week. It feels like a long time because you have been away for some episodes, and I love you here. Here we go.
Yeah, it's great.
It feels like a long time. Fergal, hi.
Hi. I'm still here. I'm like a bad penny.
Yes, you're still here. It feels like you got a haircut. Did you?
I did.
Good.
Well spotted.
Yeah. Looks neat. Lovely.
I wouldn't have recognised because I've not been here for quite a while. So
yeah, there you go. We'll get to England first. It was the first game. 6-1. I didn't expect a 6-1 at all. Did you? Iran is supposed to be strong defensively, but 6-1.
6-2, wasn't it?
6-2. Of course, they scored a penalty in the 102nd minute or whatever it was. Yeah,
England then was my dark horse. And nobody's expecting such a dominant display, and England just were ruthless from the get-go.
Yeah.
Very, very impressive performance. It almost makes me, after watching the USA and Wales as well, like there's a lot of talk that they'll play a 4 at the back against the easier teams and then move to 3 at the back. I can't see England needing to go 3 at the back in any of the group stage games.
No, it's not that they wouldn't do it against those 2. It's that they shouldn't do it against those 2. And I'll tell you why. But George, talk to me. Happy?
Yeah. Wouldn't be upset. I mean, I think we've got to take it with a pinch of salt. Obviously, Iran.
That's what I was wondering.
Potentially the easiest game in the group. Now, for me, the way I see it, Iran took a tactical gamble that really didn't pay off. They haven't been playing 5 at the back, from my understanding, at all. Not at least for the sort of past 3 games. So they wanted to go extra defensive, and what that left was just acres of space behind their fullbacks, their wing backs. That's where all of the goals came from. Play down the wing, cross into the box, or pass across the box. The acres of space, behind their wing backs was
very surprising.
Yeah, very surprising. It seemed like they just couldn't. They weren't drilled for a 5 at the back, or they couldn't sort of seem to work out, and they don't play a 5 at the back normally. So I think it's a tactical gamble that didn't pay off. Equally, really promising that we can actually score. I mean, it's been something, England fans are really, goals from open play are pretty rare. So it's nice to see Southgate. Maybe it's more a case of Southgate targeting those areas of the pitch, which I'd love to see, because I think that's where our threat is. Pace with Saka and Sterling, and even Rashford in behind there as inside forwards, inverted wingers. That's on the counter attack. That's how I want to see England play. I think a lot of people want to see England play that way. Quicker pace.
It was one of the first times you truly saw, I feel like, Kane, he has done it before. Absolutely. But it was really obvious. Kane was properly doing that drop and deep playmaking, which he's kind of attempted to do for England in the past, and then it just hasn't quite worked. And then people are like, why isn't he just getting in the box? Yeah, my prediction of him being top goal scorer, I think, is already out the window with that, because I could see him doing similar in the other games, and also if he was going to get it, he probably needed a hat trick in this game, or at least a couple of goals. So I think that shout's already gone.
Yeah.
Manny Taremi and Ener Valencia, not the two players you'd have expected to have an early grab of the golden boot.
Go for it. Yeah, absolutely. But no, I 100% agree with Fergal in that. The way Kane played was superb, and he looked like a Tottenham Kane rather than an England Kane, where he would play those balls, for those players. I thought everyone was fantastic, other than Maguire for the first goal.
Yeah, it just had to happen, didn't it?
Runner, he had such a superb game going forward up until that point. But he's a real cause for concern for me. On the turn, balls in behind, crosses into the box, I'm not too concerned. He does win headers, but yeah, I just wonder about pace in behind him, and a lot of teams have pace. That's how a lot of football teams play now.
Yeah. I'll tell you what.
That's like a Michael Owen quote.
Pace in behind.
But no, spot on. Both Wales and the US have pace on that particular side. If you play Dan James on the right wing, especially,
wouldn't worry about Dan James.
Well, he can get in behind them, and he's a professional footballer. He can pass, so I would expect
he could. I don't think he did nice. And we'll get on to that later on. But yeah, Dan James just isn't one I'd be particularly worried about.
Yeah,
even if because the likelihood is Kyle Walker might be back by that stage as well, and so it might. It's on the left hand side, though, isn't it? I don't know.
Well,
I'm not too worried.
I'll put it this way: if I'm the Wales manager, and Harry Maguire starts, I'm doing everything I can to specifically and only exploit Harry Maguire, because if you do that, Maguire's area to cover is the area where most assists come from. So, for cutbacks and for square balls, where it's between the 6-yard box and the side of the 18-yard box, you target that space because this is Harry Maguire's space, and it's also the most dangerous to get into. So I would do everything to get there. And for me, it's via putting just a fast dude up there, because Maguire is slow and can't turn.
I think Brennan Johnson might do more against them.
Brennan Johnson isn't as fast as Dan James, but I hear you.
He's not. He's better, and he is quick. Yeah. I don't think you need to be lightning quick to beat Maguire. You need to be good and be able to turn quickly and be able to do stuff, make decisions quickly.
Yeah, you actually have a good point,
decisions. All stuff I'm not too sure that Dan James would.
I just thought of something. Would you play two strikers? Would you play Kiefer Moore and Brennan Johnson together? Go like a 3-5-2?
You play.
We just get into this game because it's the one that's fresh in our minds, and I've got a few things to say.
Thinking out loud. Go ahead. What do you have to say?
Because I was really disappointed by Wales, and I thought they were incredibly lucky to get anything from this game. I thought Aaron Ramsey showed the very odd moment of a nice flick, a nice touch. I suppose he helped set up the goal, and it was one of the one times where he did get it. I thought Bale was atrocious.
That is harsh.
In terms of Bale's standard, I thought he was terrible. Any time he got the ball on the edge of the box, it was just he always seemed to do the wrong thing. He took too many touches. He wasn't clinical. The best player on the pitch for me was Kiefer Moore when he came on. I thought he had a brilliant game.
Absolutely.
And got Wales back into it. Obviously, I'm not saying you drop Bale or anything, but I think he was incredibly lucky that Zimmerman just decided to go through him for a shortcut. But it was, yeah. I Wales. I thought would get out of this group, but I think they might struggle against Iran. The fact that they came up against USA and they they weren't able to dominate too much, and I felt like they were always trying to get them on a counter attack.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever you come up against a team like Iran that might sit back a bit more and do what Wales were trying to do to the USA, like hit them on the counter attack. I don't know if Wales are going to be able to link it together as well, just based on how sloppy they were last night. I don't know how quickly you can just turn that on.
I slightly disagree with your analysis of it there. Well, I do 100% the first half. Yeah, it was very concerning for Wales. They couldn't string two passes together, to be honest. They were camped in their box, and the US looked so much better. Technically, looked like they were going to dominate the ball. But in the second half, I thought it was far more open, and actually Wales got a foothold in terms of possession, and really had the best chances in the second half.
Yeah,
mainly from aerial threats. But the two headers from the two set pieces, they could have easily been converted into goals.
I struggle to like that. I was telling Kareem, my brother, we were watching together, and I was like, Kiefer Moore just needed his hair to be just a few inches taller.
Yeah,
and that goes in. But I want to look at this in terms of so we're talking big picture group wise.
Yeah,
where are Wales going to be? Where are England going to be? So
and where the US is going to be.
Where the US is going to be.
Where's Iran going to be?
But no, I do want to draw a comparison here, because Fergal's take on Gareth Bale got me thinking about Harry Kane's role in Iran as well, and like that comparison, because these are the two like talisman. So Bale, right? The problem with Bale's role is that it wasn't central. Like the central player was Dan James at like most times.
Yeah, he was kind of like left of center, but he was the most regular sort of further forward number 9 when he was on the pitch.
That was a mistake. So what Gareth Southgate did with, and it's against the 3 at the back versus against the United States 4 at the back, but what Southgate did very successfully was mobilizing, and what the US, we'll get to more tactical stuff on the US later. What Gareth Southgate did successfully was mobilizing the back 3, drawing them out of position, and that was mainly through Kane. You drop deep, the Iran players have that tendency to try to win the ball, and England have such a technical level of play that they just kept passing it around and just offloading Shaw on the right. And you're right, the wing backs were wide open behind them.
Yeah.
What I also think England did very successfully was the involvement of Mount and Bellingham. Nobody was happy about Mount starting. How did you feel about Mount starting? Let me ask you this, George, before I get into this specific aspect of it.
Yeah, I mean, I was sort of 50-50 on it. I think it's a big statement in the sense that Gareth Southgate, Tuchel, Graham Potter, Frank Lampard have all their trust in Mount, and I know people don't like a lot of Mount's game, and I understand why.
Oh, we'll hear Harry talk about Mason Mount later.
I genuinely don't think. But I don't think Harry will slate Mount that much on certain aspects of his game. There's just specific reasons why maybe Foden and Maddison would be other people's pick. Having said that, I think if you look at the first goal, that is where Mount shines. Back to goal, receiving a ball, either playing a quick pass or spinning and first touch, another pass. I think that's where Mount's good. I don't think he's great in the box. I don't think he's going to score too many long shots like Maddison. That's where Foden in the box, Maddison outside the box in terms of long shots. They're different options. Yeah. Mount is for possession, press, and also tight spaces.
Yeah, spot on.
So he's got value. whether he plays every game, I don't think he should. I think it'll just be a matter of rotating. For example, against Wales, I can see him playing Maddison because Wales will drop deep and Maddison will get a lot of long shots off. And perhaps we'll get a bit more space in the middle as well.
Yeah.
It's for England, it's like, pick which tool of the Swiss Army knife you want to use,
exactly.
and which
Such a
one's
deep
going to
squad.
fit the job.
But they do have so many different value. They look like the same player physically, and obviously played similar.
And when you put them in the team, it also affects how other players play. And like, if Foden's going to be in the team, his best role is left wing. That means you've got a more of a left footer side, so you need someone else coming up, sort of doing that cutting inside on the right. Although he will come inside, but like there is quite a lot, as James Alcott keeps saying, like there's a lot of options with the way you play this team. Like Trippier could end up being on the left hand side if Foden was on the right, and then you've got Trippier cutting in or something like that, a bit like what Cancelo does. So you have like a great wealth of attacking options now. And the other thing was, like, a lot of the players that you weren't too sure in the form of them, like Mount and like Sterling, even Harry Maguire. First game against a poor Iran team, but they've done well and looked brilliant. And even Bellingham, like although Bellingham was brilliant going into this, but like it was still his first World Cup and the first time he's really started regularly for England, and he scored the first goal.
He surprised me so much, like very pleasantly. Going back to Mount though, you're spot on. He's very good in tight spaces, and he's very good at the receiving the pass that leads to the assist. You know what I mean? Yeah. So if you're combining down the left, then he's gonna receive that pass like that. I think that was the Bellingham goal, wasn't it? He's back to goal. He's in a really tight space because Iran were sitting with this 5 and then 4, like the bank of 9 players behind the ball. But what Mount is outstanding at is showing up in the half spaces and just finding a pocket
his intelligence.
It's very intelligent.
His intelligence is the thing that carries him the most.
Yeah,
and because there are so many sort of other aspects that maybe wouldn't make him as good as Maddison or Foden, but it's like his sort of decision making very quickly. He's not the most selfish player, and sort of recognizes better players for different positions and finds them a lot of the time, and then if he does get a chance, he's usually decent enough at putting them away himself. So
I do think the back has helped this, England massively in this game with freeing up Bellingham to go forward, and obviously rise a little bit deeper. Obviously, you'd think that on the more so on the 5 at the back, but it actually means you've got more bodies in midfield. You've got Mount, you've got Bellingham and Rice. You don't have to occupy one of those centre mids with a centre back that may be able to step into a CDM role. But I prefer this back 4 for England, especially in the group stage. I obviously listened to the pod last time, and that was Harry's prediction, and it would have been mine as well. And I hope it carries on. Actually, I hope it carries on throughout the tournament. I can very much see us going to a back 5.
I can't see a 3 at the back team winning this World Cup.
You can't.
And I think 3 at the back is. I always think any time it comes back into fashion, 3 at the back, I always think there's a time limit on this, and it will get worked out. And these things are always cyclical. So but I really do feel like 3 at the back just went stale slightly before this World Cup. And teams won't win with it. I'd be really shocked.
I think a crucial addition here is actually Bellingham from the Euros till now. This past year of just constant 90 minutes after 90 minutes after 90 minutes playing for Borussia Dortmund has helped England in a big way, because previously you would, and also the Calvin Phillips factor. I wonder if Calvin Phillips was playing regularly since the Euros, whether or not that would have changed things and changed Bellingham's involvement. But I think Bellingham is a step up from Calvin Phillips in a way where you can have three midfielders with three entirely different profiles, and it becomes more complete.
Just a lot more positive, isn't it?
It's a lot more positive, and it has a lot of diversity to it in terms of what you can do given specific situations. One thing England lacked, and they utilized the midfield too very well in the Euros, very, very well. But Kane was just dropping so deep in build-up, and I don't think he needs to do that anymore. And if he does, it means you have an extra body forward. So Bellingham has been probably the biggest, most positive change in England in the past year since the Euros. They have to stay with the back four, in my opinion, throughout the tournament. And if you want to change it to back five,
it's just Harry Maguire basically. That's the only thing that you're like.
Not just
when you come up against a top team and somebody just gets put on him. That would be your worry.
Yeah, Kiefer Moore getting put on Harry Maguire could be something.
No, but it's not just Harry Maguire, but it's also
that would suit Harry Maguire, Harry. Ali.
Well, in terms of okay, I didn't finish.
That would suit him.
Kiefer Moore on Harry Maguire. Assign yourself to Harry Maguire. Maguire will just follow you around because he likes to step up and win the ball. Space behind Maguire for Brennan Johnson or Dan James to go back to the start of the episode. Throwing him behind. There you go. Because Maguire just has a compulsive tendency to step up constantly. So yeah, it's mobilizing. It's mobilizing Maguire. I think if you're playing against England, that's all you go for. The other stuff will, you sort out this stuff separately in terms of how to defend against England. But if you're attacking them, just target Maguire.
Sorry, Ali. Just one more point on why it will likely change to a back five, even though I don't want it to. Is the other profiles of the centre backs that we have, i.e., Eric Dyer, Connor Cody. These aren't for the back defenders.
Should have brought Tomori.
Should have brought Tomori.
There you go.
But that's the nature of our team. I don't want.
And also Kyle Walker as well.
Yeah.
Just play him right back, or just make him the sub right back for Trippier. Doesn't have to play.
Yeah, but I think I could see Southgate just as soon as Kyle Walker's fit for a big game, he just would love to have him in there, and that's why then you move to three at the back.
Yeah,
I think it makes it it's a really balanced back five whenever Kyle Walker's in there, and it does help it out a lot.
Okay, if you play back five, who do you drop from midfield? It's gotta drop one.
You drop Mount.
It'd be Mount.
Yeah.
Oh.
It might not be Mount, but it's that attacking role, and then you could change up the front three.
Yeah.
Do you think that happens against the US?
No, I think I've seen no reason for England to worry with USA or Wales tonight. Pulisic, the USA's goal, if we're going to talk about that, nice link-up play.
Yeah,
but it just felt
actually, in a way, we'll get into
significant for you, yeah. But it felt like Wales were just slow to get to the ball. There was a few balls that USA just got on the end of. I feel like when it comes up against England's midfield, they'll just cut a few more of those out. And yeah, Pulisic done all right, and then that was sort of him for the game. I thought there's so many times I thought go on, drive with it now, and he's sort of turned back and almost as if he's been stuck at Chelsea too long. It's ingrained in him to do that. But yeah, I think England are going to coast this unless Wales come up again. Wales just has a wonder show and turns up.
I think England get 9 points, and the specific reasons get into U.S. men's national team, first appearance in 8 years. 1, Wales, first appearance in 58 years. won. That was balanced. That was a good game. Although I thought in the first half we could have really scored a second goal if we really wanted to. And I understand the mental approach of cautiousness. Like if you have one goal, you don't want to rush things and end up getting countered on, because that's all Wales went for. There were definitely some opportunity. There were some opportunities, just like the goal, in terms of Wales players were out of position. We had a lot of space in behind, and it would have taken one midfielder, Yunus Musa, to like look behind his shoulder and recognize, oh, there's space to attack now, and then find like a run of Weston McKennie or change it to the side to Dest or Jedi. Jedi being Anthony Robinson. But the goal was, I think, was a sample of what we were going for, and we go back to this idea of mobilizing the back five and getting them out of position. That's what happened with the goal, was a goal kick, contested aerial duel, and then Josh Sargent. There was Pulisic and Yunus Musa were there and could have gotten the ball, but because Sargent comes in, the Joe Rodon, who's central center back, thinks he should go with Sargent because Sargent is the striker and I gotta get the ball off him. But once Pulisic is released into space, Weah cuts in, and I love that run. Weah does have a tendency sometimes, and it showed this game in the middle of the first half, just before the goal, to stay wide where there was space for him to drive in. And I'm just so glad he recognized that and, realized, oh, I can make this run now. There's a space for me behind Rodon to get into. Nico Williams is behind me. Let's go for it. But it was a great goal. Not very pleased about our general cautiousness going forward after that, and it was for good reason. It's because Wales started Dan James in the middle, specifically because Ream and Zimmerman are slow. And going to that, Ream and Zimmerman were very disciplined, I thought, in their positioning in terms of keeping a mid-block. Because we generally play a high line. I thought Aaron Long would start because we would go for that. And then, he's used to the Red Bull style of playing as much high line as you can and being fast on the turn and, covering a lot of space behind him. But I'm glad about the defensive approach. Didn't expect it whatsoever. But George, did you watch the US game against the Wales?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I think that's a really good summary, and potentially the reason why you didn't go with that high line was the pace of Dan James in behind. I do think he is my least favorite player on the planet.
That's been well.
He's just like those. He's just like the old school Ultimate Team cards.
Yeah.
Like 75 rated, but in 99 pace, and everybody has him. And in FIFA, he's brilliant, but you'll never see him do anything in real life. He's like, what do you call that? A Barbo or
Barbo.
Emenike.
Emenike. What was the German silver card? Is it? Essien? No, it wasn't like Weissen or. I can't remember the name of him.
Yeah.
People. If you know Ultimate Team, you know who I'm on about.
Ibarra, though, I've never played Ultimate Team in my life, but even I know who Ibarra is on an Ultimate Team level.
Yeah.
But this is where he obviously scores against England. But moving on, obviously, to US and
Dan James.
Clip it.
Masterclass incoming.
Yeah. The US. I mean, initially they were pretty impressive. I mean, in terms of the way they controlled the game, on the ball for the first 20 minutes, seems to have burnt themselves out, or like you said, as soon as they got the goal, that was it. Perhaps that's foreshadowing what they'll do against England and potentially Iran as well. That's an approach that might get you far in a knockout tournament, but in terms of winning group games, you want to be 2-3 up. You want to go for the kill. I mean, neither team really impressed me, and I think if Iran revert back to a back four, I think perhaps this performance against England might be a bit misleading if they can, get back to what they've been in the past. And obviously, I don't know too much about Iran, but in terms of their run up to the World Cup, they're not a bad team.
Not at all.
And so,
I'm just really surprised by 6.
Yeah, well, that's it.
So
It
much.
may be misleading. They left so much space behind the wing backs that it was inevitable with the pace of Sterling, Saka, even Bellingham and Rashford. That you can see by just the goal scorers, perhaps what happened there.
Yeah.
So
I can't see with the Carlos Queiroz team that he's going to be there's going to be as many goals in the next game, and like Taremi is a great striker. Am I right in thinking was it him that scored the unbelievable goal against Chelsea? Remember there was like an overhead kick at the very end against Porto when we won the Champions League.
Yeah.
Was it? I think it was Taremi that scored that. It was a brilliant goal. He's a solid number 9, and like he'll be a threat for both USA and Wales. They were really poor there, so I'm not going to pick them to turn it around, but I can't rule them out totally.
No.
Also, that's kind of down to I'm not fully convinced by Wales, especially. I think USA do look the best out of those 3 teams. It was disappointing the US, as you said, like they just didn't kick on, and I felt like they were trying to be like it sort of summed up with what Pulisic would do, because there's a couple of times he got out in that left flank with potential to counter attack, and there wasn't anybody running on past him.
Yeah,
and he made the right decision to like cut back and recycle possession. The possession never really went anywhere, and then it ended up being given back fairly soon. And it was like if it looked like you were trying to do that, like win a game by keeping the ball and being defensive in that way, but you need to assert some sort of dominance to be able to do that. You can't just be constantly like passing around the back against the team that's going to be pressing you.
I agree. That example of taking it wide though has led to a lot of, or like a couple at least, of Yunus Musa making like an overlapping run and just exchanging the ball with Pulisic, 1-2, get ahead into space. And we should have done that more in the first half, especially. In the second half, when it happened, we just wouldn't take the right decision. Like, there was one glaring example of this when Brendan Aronson came on, and he was all alone with like 20 yards ahead of him, and he was only 40 yards from the goal. Like, if he'd received it, this would have been a big chance. Either it's him receiving it like on top of the box and getting a shot away, or seeing the run of Yedlin or Dest, I think it was Yedlin on at that point, or just slipping a ball through to Haji Wright. But there were plenty of more examples of that sort of thing, of there's open players and we just wouldn't pass it to them. And it's a little bit frustrating. But we are young, we're very inexperienced, tired legs at that point, which affects decision making.
Yeah, I was just about to say there's an awful lot of injuries, and the ref kept stopping it as well.
It was very stop-start, wasn't
it? But the ref kept stopping for injuries, even though it was clearly just like cramp or like a small knock.
True.
And then all of a sudden he stopped doing it because it was near the end. He was sort of like picking and choosing when to do it then. And it was like, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
And John Hartson nearly lost his mind on the ITV commentary. He was so biased for the whole game. At one point, I swear, he was so close, especially when they won the lane, just going, for fuck's sake. He was like, he was. I only he's Welsh, and it was quite funny to listen to. If it had been an English commentator, I would not have had any time for it whatsoever, and that's purely my bias showing through there.
Yeah.
But like, it was a terrible commentator from John Hartson, but it was kind of funny to listen to.
That's so funny, man. But no, the ref was a bit odd, wasn't he? Yeah,
he was, and he was also like, did you see him for the penalty? He was like doing these big exaggerated instructions. He was like, no. He was like waving his arms at like, do not cross this line.
Do not cross this line.
No, it was like already exaggerated, and it was like, honestly, Nick, he's a Premier League goalkeeper. He knows what the rules are.
Yeah, and honestly, as an Arab myself, and he's a Qatari referee, I understand exactly what he was doing. He
enlighten us.
Showmanship.
Do you think?
He wanted to steal the thunder.
Is he the World Cup's Mike Dean? Is that what you're saying? Or are we keeping an eye on this?
Potentially, we need a little larger sample size for a goal. Potentially, keep an eye on him.
He squared up to a player as well. I can't remember what it was. He squared up to
also. MLS referees do this stuff all of the time. The exaggerated, like, don't cross the line, or like going just right face up to the player when he's giving him a talking to, or if there's a foul, like he would just like run up to the spot and point like aggressive like this, like throw his arm down into the ground and point this way. Like it's very. Yeah, that happened too. I don't know if he took like
now I think of it,
lessons
the
or
bit where he squared up
influence
player,
from MLS.
It was the ref that kind of like stuck the head in, and the player nearly done it like as a reaction back to him, and then was like, "Oh fuck, is the ref? I can't do that."
I don't know. I honestly have no idea. One more thing before we move on to a broader topic about refereeing that I'm keen to move on to. Why on God's green earth is Gio Reyna on the bench and Jordan Moore is coming on?
I forgot Gio Reyna existed, to be honest. But whenever I saw your man Morris, I was like, did not have somebody better, especially like. I was a bit surprised, but I was thinking like, surely there's someone else in this USA side. That is mental that he hasn't put on Reyna.
I don't know, Morris. If we're 1-0 up, I would understand it because Gio Reyna is injury prone. So if you want to like start Gio Reyna next game, then maybe that would have been an indication that Gio Reyna is gonna start next game. Morris has a very good first touch, good hold up, is stronger than you think, and wins aerial duels quite often. Maybe that was what we were going for, like the more direct approach because we're desperate. But come on, man. Like, Gio Reyna is a starter for Borussia Dortmund.
Yeah.
Like, come on. It's surely a no-brainer. He's also a right winger. Surely a no-brainer. I didn't understand it. Never will. Nobody on, like, it's the one thing all of US Men's national team Twitter agreed on. Like, the Moore substitution was, at the very least, very surprising. But that's something I wanted to get off my chest. Generally, the lineup had a few semi-surprises, like Timmy Weah starting, but that was spot on. Timothy Weah starting against the Wales back five was spot on. He nailed it. And congrats to him on the goal. This is a performance that people will start to notice him more. Hopefully, Lille just don't play him in a back four anymore. That it's strange. He played the last like 2 or 3 games at right back. So I don't know. The more substitution though. Not okay with it. Not okay. But okay with the result. Now let's move on to back to the referee, because why are we seeing so much at a time? I have a theory about this, but so far we've seen 10 minutes at a time that went up to 13 or 14 because the concussion substitution in the Iran-England game. But we've seen 5 added minutes in the first half that didn't have any stoppages apart from the goal in the US-Wales game. And there's like 9 minutes in the Senegal-Netherlands game, which I couldn't watch, but you know, it's just...
I never understand in the first place how they come up with the added time.
So I have a theory about this.
You can always, but there definitely is some sort of like formulaic thing that they do, because everyone generally is able to guess the added time. If you're like a football fan, you're like, oh, this one's a 5 minute, or probably 2 minutes for this one. You generally are like, fair enough. But like whatever process everybody had in their heads, that's out the window now.
Yeah.
Like the maximum of 5 minutes, it's like they're actually now counting the stoppages like properly, because it's always been the case that like there's only usually around 60 minutes of in-game play in a football game, and obviously we can't play another half an hour. There was there talk of like a rule that was going to come in that was like you would you do the added time as normal, and then if there still wasn't 30 minutes in each half played in game, then that you would play on until you got up to 30 minutes in each half. I remember hearing that. I don't know if it was someone just said it, or if it was being a rule being talked about. But yeah, but they've clearly completely changed how they're calculating it, and I'm not against it. It's just weird to see. It's a wee bit like fucking another 10 minutes, right?
5 minutes at a time. I was watching the Peacock commentary, the NBC and Telemundo feed. That was a Spanish commentary. So it just happens like I don't have Fox in my region, whatever. So watch the Spanish commentary, and you can hear him very clearly. And I don't know Spanish, but one thing I did understand when they added 5 minutes is ¿Por qué 5 minutos? ¿Por qué? It's so funny. And the commentary is it was very energetic, and that happened, I just cracked. Yeah, it had me laughing. But I think this is a step towards a countdown rather than a count up. It's a small step, but you are right. Fox did mention their commentary. I found out later on that the referees are instructed to stop every single stoppage and count it. Whether that's there's a head injury or a leg injury and we're stopping the game. Okay, I'm gonna stop it now. Or
I don't know why
want to talk to a player or whatever it is. I think that's the case, that they're stopping everything and ensuring there's 45 minutes exactly of added time.
I don't know why we can't do why it can't be a stop clock like in some situations at least. It seems really strange, like, and if it's gonna go, let's say this is just the beginning of the extreme stoppage time, it's gonna be a bit ridiculous if you get to the end of like a game, like a really dirty scrappy game, and you've got 20 more minutes to play or something like that.
Yeah, you're gonna... in terms of player welfare, that is the only concern, right? Because especially with it being a tournament in the middle of the season, the pressures on the players. You've got to be careful in terms of adding 10, 15 minutes on top of the 90-minute. Yes, they're not running for 90 minutes, but they're still out there.
And then play 30 added minutes in extra time in the knockouts.
Yeah. It could end up being like 5 or 10 minutes more than what was happening in games before, which is like what's that, like a tenth more of the time roughly. It's considerable.
Yeah,
it really is. Like a 90-second minute winner wouldn't feel so late anymore. I wonder if FIFA just like watched league play and found out, there's like 30 minutes played here.
Usually we get a warning about this sort of thing. They've kind of just like assumed, because it wasn't even the case in the opener. In the opener, which was drab game.
Yeah, it was bad.
It was so, and also, well, we'll get into some of the surrounding stuff now.
Yes.
All right.
There's so many talking points already. I love it and hate it.
So there's the whole issue with the attendance figures of the Senegal Netherlands game. The official capacity of the stadium was 40,000. Am I right in saying it was the Senegal Netherlands game?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. And then they announced it was 41,000 on a bit, 41,200. Even though the official capacity in like all the notes and stuff of all the journalists that were given, it was 40,000.
See,
And then there was huge pockets of empty seats. So it's like it's like either somebody's just like picked 40,000 out of thin air when coming up with the capacity of this stadium, or something else is afoot.
okay, I know what happened here, and that happened in the first game too. I think it was off by like 7,000 more than capacity, I want to say, but that's like straight off memory. So I don't know, might not be accurate, but when I worked for Philly Union and reported stuff to Opta, one of it was attendance, and that's how I like kind of knew how that works. The numbers that we give to like for official statistic, implementation recording is how many tickets were sold, given, regardless of whether or not they attended. So attendance is the actual number of tickets sold. How many tickets were scanned is not the official number that people give. The other thing is, for example, the Union played NYCFC in the conference final. The attendance for that was something like 21,000. We're an 18,000 capacity seat stadium. But the reason why is because we sold a number of standing only seats. So I imagine that would be the case too in Qatar. So you have room for people who don't mind not sitting and just want to stand. Like standing only room.
I don't think they would have. I don't think they have standing
spaces
in Qatar. And also, my guess, if that's the sort of thing that you're saying, is that the amount that's sold. My guess is that they knew that loads of people wouldn't bother turning up to this game, so they sold
and just start giving away loads
more just to try and get people in.
Yeah, and that counts, and that counts in the official figure. So that's all the tickets that were given away. When you hear like the attendance is lower than capacity, it's just they didn't sell that many tickets. But what the officials at Qatar would have done is give away as much as possible, like corporate. That's the reason why Qatari fans just left at halftime, because the game is boring as hell and you're 2-0 down, and just everyone that's there just doesn't have an interest. And I'm
very suspect about their ultras as well, because they're I'm gonna come across a bit like sort of looking down on them here, but they all had the exact same Qatari jersey on.
Well, that could be just them organizing something. Yeah, it's a t-shirt that had Qatar across, but I don't have a problem with that. Like,
was that just given to them in the stadium, do you think?
No, it could be a genuine supporters group that printed their own t-shirts. Like
I just thought it showed that there was a lack of footballing culture, because in any other crowd there's a variety of jerseys. So the fact that they all have like the exact same one, like I get if they all had like the brand new jersey on, because like there'd be a lot of that going on, but there was just like a real lack of variety, and it's like, there's no history of old vintage tops or no, that sort of thing.
I don't know.
It's just something I noticed. I don't want to slag them off too much, because like in fairness, those particular fans are actually like they were all right. They stayed to the end, the majority of them, and seemed to be singing throughout.
I don't think the two things are connected. I do think, well, Qatari football culture did grow from the 12 years that spanned World Cup preparations. Of course it did. And since beforehand, the Aspire Academy opened up in 2007, 5 or 7, something like that. The Aspire Academy is like a world-renowned youth development academy that has produced players that play on the national team now, Akram Afif and others that I can't remember the names now. I'm blanking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Damn. Anyway, and Qatar are Asian champions, and were Asian champions pretty convincingly, and had to beat the two harder teams en route, Korea and Japan. So in terms of footballing culture, it has improved.
How they've done it with that keeper, I have no idea.
I don't know. So in terms of footballing culture, it has improved. in terms of like that having the same T-shirt means there's not much of football culture, and you have to like rely on those fans to like generate an atmosphere. I disagree. I don't think it's connected at all. Like this could be I haven't done my research on it or anything like that.
Yeah, I'm going off an assumption based on what T-shirts people are wearing. So my hypothesis isn't into much fact.
Incorrect. Even though it might be, I don't know. None of what we're both saying here is factually accurate because we're making assumptions here. George, you had something.
Yeah, I believe isn't FIFA investigating Qatar for quite a few penalties in games prior to this World Cup, so that there's been a controversy where most of their games have been played behind doors, and it seems statistically that they've received quite a high number of penalties.
There was also the rumor that they were bribed, like Ecuadorian players are bribed. I don't buy
a little bit more extreme. But if anything,
I think the Qatari goalkeeper was bribed.
Yeah,
he was a bit off it. So there was that.
The Dragon would give him a run for his money.
God. So low attendances, lower than we've really ever seen in a world. Like I don't recall.
It's a real shame that like the people just get up and leave, and it's also like it's the middle section of all these stadiums is the corporate bit.
Yeah, and it's what shows on TV. It's not a good look.
It's what shows on telly, and it's the bit that's like it wasn't filled in Senegal versus Netherlands
or US Wales.
Great game. It's a great game to go to. It would end up not being a great game, but whenever you're like looking at the first couple of rounds of fixtures, it's probably the highlight game. I would have thought, like Wales USA but like it's up there like in terms of like two really competitive teams. It not to be a great game, but yeah, it's a real shame. And Ken Early on Second Captain's podcast, have you heard? Listen,
I'm in the middle of the episode now. It's hilarious.
But he basically says like there's a rep of a sponsor of one of the sponsors of this World Cup.
Yeah,
and I can't remember where it was. I think it's in the stadium.
It is.
The guy's like, it's like, do you need any tickets? And Ken Early's like a journalist, so he's got all of his tickets sorted already. He's like, no, I'm good. He goes, but how come? It's like, oh, we've got loads of tickets to give away, and he's like, we've got some good games, so if you're interested or somebody's interested, let me know.
That's what I'm saying. That's that. All of that will go into attendance figures.
Yeah. So like it's mental that like they're literally trying to give tickets away to a bloody World Cup. Like if anybody's out there and has chanced their arm, I'm sure like if you meet the right person, you'll get to loads of games, maybe at a discount price as well. Because it sounds like they're just trying to fill it up, it sounds a bit like some of like the really crap Olympic sports, like where they just like if you're in the right place, the right time, you'd be allowed to come in for free and get an Olympic event. Like
I didn't know that.
But and then the last thing is the armband.
Let's get into
what's
that.
What's the name on it? Love for All, was it?
One Love.
One Love.
Yeah. George, I want to get George's thoughts on this first.
Yeah,
as the Englishman in the room, as the one that got the news broken to, I guess, as an English fan right before the lineups came out. Thoughts, feelings, concerns? What happened there?
Yeah, I mean, I guess to preface it, obviously we don't know what was said to England yet in terms of what the repercussions would be of not, of wearing it. Nonetheless, no matter what the repercussions would have been, I'm extremely disappointed that we didn't go ahead with it. It's clear that this tournament for England, the whole way through, you're talking about every pundit, every sort of media station, every footballer said we're gonna attend, but we're gonna sort of disapprove. Disapprove vocally, or take a stand. That's not happened. That's not happened with David Beckham. That's not happened with Gary Neville, really. Even
Gary Neville, by the way, sandwiched in between Andy Gray, Richard Keys, and John Terry.
Being sports, yeah, awful.
And we produced a whole like documentary about the situation of the migrant workers.
If you're going to condemn a World Cup, you either don't play in it, or you are going to actually follow up, with your statements, no matter what the repercussions. I can't imagine they were going to be that great for an armband. Whether Harry Kane gets booked, I'm happy with that, to be honest. What matters more are principles or a yellow card. If we get kicked out of the World Cup, well, one, I don't think they can do that.
No,
I don't think they would do that. Secondly, if that's the case, then clearly the statement of everyone is welcome, just don't do it publicly, is not. It's pretty a weak statement if you can't wear a One Love armband. Obviously, Alex Scott did, which I thought was fantastic. And I think she's been great. So yeah, I'm just incredibly disappointed.
It's a shame because the gesture initially was a wee bit tokenistic. It was like, we're going to do this thing. Here's a little nod to it. And the fact that they're not allowed to do it, that then gives it more power and more of a statement. It actually means something now because you've got skin in the game and in at the very least getting a yellow card, and then you've potentially maybe more sanctions. As far as I know, the only thing that would have happened is the yellow card because that's what's in the rules. But maybe the powers that be were pulling more strings behind the scenes to make it worse for England and Wales if they did do anything. But like it would have, Roy Keane, I was like surprised he like such a good statement on it. It was basically saying like wear it for the first game, fair enough. Don't wear it for every game because then you're going to get suspensions. But wear it for this one, make the statement, and stick to your principles. Is the sort of thing he said. Like, I'm sure it was a difficult decision, but
I think it absolutely.
But actually, it's just funny the way like FIFA were trying to like sort of make it go away, but if they had actually carried through with it, it would have meant so much more and been a lot more powerful than it initially was. And a shame. And then you've got like Infantino's statement that he done, which is like it's been covered loads, but
man,
it still boggles the mind how he came out with that. Like,
shit. Yeah, okay, I think the World Cup has already failed, right? Because on the one hand, you have the low attendance issue. On the other hand, Infantino, and on the one hand individually, and FIFA on the other hand, as an organization, have just in the past 24 hours, as of recording this episode, 48 when you listen to this probably, just made absolute fools out of themselves. Because, okay, let me be very, very clear about the purpose of the armband. And it's not for just LGBTQ plus communities. It is for just a statement of a show of unity all across the world, all across the genders and races and everything else. And that's the purpose. It's not just LGBTQ plus, right? So here you have FIFA after a honestly spectacular opening ceremony. That its very central message was unity. Oh, welcome. Everyone welcome here. And
wasn't
you had the Morgan Freeman
analogy,
skit. And
the analogy they use is like we're all part of the one tribe.
This was a verse from the Quran. I thought this was the most powerful thing out of everything. Like they recited a verse of the Quran. We made you man and woman and from like different tribes so that you get to know each other. That's the whole central premise of the entirety of the opening ceremony.
Sums up the World Cup, what we like to think of the World Cup quite
exactly.
well.
It's like it's like 32 different nationalities coming in. Well, in this situation in Qatar and Bahrain, because the fans can't stay all in Qatar at once because there's no room for them. Whatever. England, the Netherlands, Belgium, Denmark, Germany, and Switzerland and Wales were set to participate in the quote-unquote One Love campaign to promote inclusion and oppose discrimination. Not for a specific identity or gender identity or racial identity. It's just across the entire world, really. So here you have FIFA having that opening ceremony and then specifically and officially telling people that if you wear an armband, like a piece of knitted cloth on your arm for 90 minutes, we will show you yellow cards. It just makes it an absolute failure out of the whole premise of what a World Cup is, of this specific World Cup. Obviously, I think it's already had a really bad image and will historically be remembered for what FIFA have done. For Infantino's statement. Infantino's statement has a permanent legacy against Infantino, who will, by the way, be the FIFA president from next year on for the next 4 years because he's running unopposed next year. It's just an absolute shame.
I wonder what
it will just have a permanent legacy.
If this World Cup, if it goes really badly and it tarnishes him so badly, is there any opportunity for someone else to run? But then it doesn't really matter. I was saying that and then I just remembered it. We're dealing with FIFA. It doesn't really matter who runs.
His monologue. Well, I feel gay.
It was spectacular.
It was. Absolutely, it's disgraceful, isn't it?
It's horrendous.
Linking it to being to being ginger, at school. He feels discriminated against. I couldn't believe what was. I genuinely couldn't believe what was happening.
Yeah.
To put
and he says it with a straight face, like really sincerely, like it's
very sincere. Yeah. To put one positive spin on things. The Iranian national team not singing their national anthem, which is incredibly brave.
Yeah.
In protest for women's rights.
Yeah.
I think is absolutely fantastic. So I mean that is the one. I mean, championing thing from this World Cup so far. Shame they couldn't follow up the performance and do it justice. But no, really brave sort of remark, and I kind of wish England could follow up on that.
Yeah, I think, and just on around, this is something that has like an actual like risk against their livelihood.
Yeah.
Like, I have no idea how brave this is. It cannot be overestimated because this is an entirely different situation from what you would usually have in protests in countries. This is different, but man, I think the overall, like, for me, the one thing I'm taking away from this World Cup is that it's not as enjoyable because there's always this cloud hanging over it in terms of just I don't know, every single aspect of anti-discrimination is a discussion, and FIFA are just like slamming the door shut, or if it's another country. But the one like positive thing is that the legacy of this World Cup is that people are starting to discuss these things more, and actual change is happening. Because if the World Cup wasn't given to Qatar, the kafala system wouldn't change, and it's a tremendous loss of life that went into doing this World Cup, and you genuinely, one can stop thinking of that when he's watching the games. Like, good God, these empty seats cost lives, and they're empty. But at the same time, the kafala system altogether wouldn't have changed if that wasn't such a big thing in the preparation for the World Cup, and if it wasn't for the journalistic efforts to do so.
It's a change that's come out as a result of it. But the other way it should have been done is go, you can have a World Cup whenever things change, and instead of doing it the other way around. Like,
there's no chance.
Instead of going, you're having the World Cup, so you better change these things, and going, whenever you get these issues change, you will then be rewarded with a World Cup. And whenever you rightly deserve it. I don't know. There's more and more talk of Saudi Arabia getting to host it. He was like the I can never remember the name of him. He sat right beside Infantino, the head of Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, there's an added context to this, is that Saudi Arabia and Qatar were in quite a big conflict and still are. So, like, some Qatari businesses aren't operating in Saudi Arabia. Like, that's still there's still
the whole like that was part of the Newcastle issue, was like the whole like issue with the illegal streams, and Saudi Arabia was backing that, and that's a rabbit hole too big to go down.
There you go.
But
it's like it was like a show of unity. It was the intention of it, but Saudi
it
Arabia
was a
will
show of
host 2030.
unity. But also there's talk of this bid between Greece, Saudi Arabia, and Egypt for the next World Cup.
Yeah.
I initially thought it was mental, in my head, but then they are kind of close together. But it is still a big distance.
Yeah, the early talk was actually Italy and Saudi Arabia, but it's shifted to Greece, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia. That is true.
Yeah,
it would have to be in the winter. It'd have to be in the winter.
But like the fact that Saudi Arabia is still being talked about, and then on telly tonight on ITV was an ad for Saudi Arabia tourism, and it had like the FIFA logo beside it. So like we're not out of the woods yet with this, and like I still think the image of this World Cup and FIFA can be changed by the football itself. If Messi wins the World Cup, I think that's a powerful sports washing moment image that could, like, a lot of people will remember that, as long as like there's not like mass crowd issues or deaths or whatever. If the sort of thing goes smoothly with a few hitches, a few people not happy with their accommodation, and we've nearly got it's the first week, and all of the gay rights issues and LGBTQ plus issues and human rights and migrant workers. It's the first week. We could all be done talking about this by the end of the first week, like, because there's nothing more to say. Like, everybody knows the facts, and then from then on, it could just be about the football. Like, so I still think that, like, if it goes relatively okay, it might be like, right, we'll chance of Saudi Arabia World Cup, and I think Saudi Arabia has more of a reputation for holding big sporting events already than Qatar did. So, and I think they would host a better event. Like the actual event itself, I think would be run a lot more smoothly. I think there'd probably be a bit more infrastructure there already. Knowing nothing about Saudi Arabia, purely guessing, but they host a lot of stuff.
Yeah, Saudi Arabia are definitely would be a little more ready than Qatar, because purely size, and they have quite an impressive few stadiums already that would be used anyway.
And one thing that just popped into my head, what I was saying, that was ITV were reporting that Welsh fans wearing rainbow bucket hats weren't being allowed in with the bucket hats on.
Grant Wall was wearing a rainbow t-shirt and wasn't allowed in. There's an American journalist that worked for.
Interesting.
Ooh.
So
was it anyway? Sorry, Grant.
Yeah. So like, I'm not gonna hold my breath until like I see like some significant change. But with all this, like the fact that there's still pally with Saudi Arabia and in the FIFA box and stuff, it's just, is there really going to be much change going forward? And then the statement itself, like FIFA's like firmly backing Qatar for all this.
Yeah. Even
though their reputation is going to be tarnished, but there's nobody really that's going to hold them accountable for it. They'll probably get away with it.
We and different, like, we're very, very small, but different journalistic efforts can continue to do so. I feel like FIFA will be hoping that, it's all gonna go away. That's been their approach throughout the 12 years of preparation. It's like, people will forget in time. People will forget in time. People will forget in time. We haven't. So let's keep talking about
it. Ali, but has anything been done?
The kafala system has been changed, but there's a debate in terms of there's a massive speculation in terms of has it actually been changed yet? But
That's what I mean.
the
It's
rule
like
itself
this-
has, and that's something that would not, as I said, it wouldn't have happened
But on top of
without
that,
people
Ali,
highlighting it.
on top of that, Ali, do you not think that obviously we had Russia before this, and they were invading? They'd already invaded Crimea. We're
Yeah.
likely to have Saudi Arabia, which most likely that
Invaded Yemen.
I was going to say the Yemen crisis is probably going to be the next focus of the next World Cup, and like Fergal said, after a week and a half, things going to be said and done, at which to the point where we then concentrate on just another World Cup. In terms of Brazil, obviously they had sort of shanty towns, and I know a lot of them were sort of demolished or
Yeah,
very
people were
much
moved from favelas pretty forcefully
moved
and with a
away
couple of days
from
notice, a
development.
couple hours notice at some points.
Exactly. We're going to have World Cups that are going to be very, very problematic.
Oh yeah, we always will.
Whether they instill actual change, I highly doubt it. I think it will just be.
It always comes back to the money. The only way you get change done is if you boycott sponsors that are take part. In fact, I haven't recognized most of the sponsors of this World Cup, other than the usual ones like McDonald's and Coke and stuff like that. So like, if you want to affect change, like it needs to be like sort of mass movements to boycott and disgrace the sponsors of the World Cup that are funding all of this. Like that'd be the only way to go about it. But that's one hell of a movement to do.
Yeah,
and Coca-Cola tastes really nice.
Yeah, and people have McDonald's every day that don't know what soccer is. Anyway, we'll keep talking about it. I'm sure it won't end here. People will still discuss things over the next, I don't know, week or several days until we release the next episode, whenever it is. So yeah, until then, I guess we'll keep watching the games. Having said all this, but whatever. Yeah, as I said, we keep watching. We keep talking about them. Don't get complacent. And yeah, that's how change came about with the qual system, and hopefully more. But we'll see.
Well, what are the next games coming up? We have
the next games coming up. We let me pull up the calendar quick. I know that tomorrow games start 5 a.m. local time for me, which is just fantastic. It's Saudi Arabia against Argentina at 5 a.m. tomorrow Eastern. So that would be 10 a.m. for you guys. 10 a.m. That's just amazing. And then you have games such as Denmark-Tunisia, I think could be pretty intriguing. On Wednesday, Belgium-Canada. I really look forward to Belgium-Canada. I think Canada could surprise a lot of people, as we discussed.
Morocco-Croatia,
Morocco-Croatia is good.
I think all the games in Group F are going to be decent enough because to watch. So yeah.
On Thursday, Portugal start with Ghana. Ghana have multiple new players that have committed to them, including Iñaki Williams and Terry Clampty. Iñaki Williams' brother, Nico Williams, is at Spain. So that's another brotherhood of different nationalities here at the World Cup.
Did he make the squad, yeah?
Nico Williams made the squad, and Iñaki Williams made the Ghana squad. So there you go. Brazil kick off their campaign against Serbia, Uruguay against South Korea. And then we go back to round 2 with the ultimate. Just Another Football Podcast derby on Friday.
It's also the discount. It's also the discount derby, yeah.
The discount derby. The discount of right backs. Yeah, I thought we covered this last time. And that's got to be at 2 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. GMT. Tune in. This is the biggest Just Another Football Podcast derby that will ever happen. And I really look forward to it. I think my next experience on the episode, if we have an episode until then, I think my next experience will have known the result of that game. And I'll be watching. Very closely. I think he'll win, but regardless. All right. Good luck, George. Apart from the game on Friday. But impressive win. Congratulations.
Thank you. Likewise. Apart from everything I play from now on.
I don't think it's a... Yeah, thank you. I don't know if you were congratulating or wishing you good luck, but if you were congratulating, I'm a little bit annoyed, to be honest. We could have won. Wales were good. in the first half at least. But whatever. Fergal, just enjoy. You're neutral here.
I'm just vibing, man. Just vibing.
Honestly, who are you gonna like support from US England? I'm assuming US.
On Friday, I will be saying, I feel American. That's what I'll be saying on Friday. That's me Friday.
There you go. Fantastic. All right. Today I feel American. Okay, we'll be all feeling American, Virgo, over here. That's for sure. We'll feel more patriotic than ever. Certainly for me. All right, have a good rest of the week. Enjoy the games. Enjoy the early games, the late games, games we watch at school, games we watch at work, games we watch at home, and enjoy responsibly. Goodbye and cheers.